Welcome to my new setup. The fun thing about subscribing to my channel is that things are always evolving, so now we see a lot more of my living area. We also hear a lot more cars, so I have to take a lot more pauses when I record this, which is great for everyone. Green Lantern Corps. There's been casting rumors recently, specifically Tom Cruise and Mark Wahlberg. I don't so much mind Tom Cruise, it's more Mark Wahlberg that I'm worried about. I feel like if they do cast him, he's an okay actor, but I don't think he's Hal Jordan. He's not charming. I think he's going to bring that Michael Bay humor to superhero movies, and I just don't think they need it. They really do not need it.
That's that shit I don't like.
So here's me doing what I always do and fan casting a Green Lantern movie, how I would do it. The version I'm casting, you can set it in the DCEU, but it could also be ambiguous. It doesn't so much matter if it is set in the DCEU or not. This is more just like what I would want to see from a Green Lantern Corps movie. For the villain of the movie, I'm going to choose Mongul. He's a large, intimidating, almost Darth Vader-esque DC cosmic villain. I don't want him to be played as reservingly as Thanos. I want you to get the sense that he's having fun while being just outrageously evil. As much as I would want to put the Sinestro Corps as villains in this movie, I think it might be a bit too soon. I think you have to build to that. I think Sinestro has to earn having a whole core of fear lanterns. You can't just explain it in a backstory, because then it doesn't mean anything when Hal's trying to get through to him, or when Hal and him are fighting, and it's like, oh shit, this is ex-friend versus ex-friend. I'm gonna make Mongul's henchmen in this movie the Manhunters. If you don't know who the Manhunters are, it's got nothing to do with Martian Manhunter. They're actually the first army the Guardians of the Universe made before the Green Lanterns. Have the beginning of the movie start with Jon Stewart and Guy Gardner out on patrol, but they're captured by Mongul and his Manhunters. I think you can really establish a repertoire here between these two characters and show that it's a bit jokey, but it's not over-the-top jokey. It's close to the tone of a cop movie. Then cut to a sequence where Hal and Sinestro are stopping the 5 inversions, led by Atrocitus, from hijacking Space Cabbie's space cab. I really want to put just some weird space shit in this movie. That's something that Guardians of the Galaxy did really well. This also establishes the ability of the Green Lanterns very quickly for the audience. And then you can have Atrocitus say something like,
"My entire sector was massacred and no one ever did anything about it."
Have Hal and Sinestro be sent out to find Guy and John to bring them back. Then uncover a conspiracy by the Guardians of the Universe to cover up the massacre of Sector 666, Atrocitus' sector from earlier in the movie, who were all wiped out by Manhunters after a rogue Guardian programmed them to do just that. I want Sinestro and Mongul to have history too. You could have Sinestro maybe be the person who caught Mongul after he tried to conquer his own planet. But now Mongul has discovered the Manhunters, and he has an army of robots at his disposal. He sends 2 to Korrigar and the rest to his home planet. We then have our teams split up. Guy and John go to Mongul's planet and call in backup to help save the people of that planet from the Manhunters, while Mongul kills the leadership. You then have Hal and Sinestro head to Korrigar, Sinestro's home planet, and manage to take out both 2 Manhunters. However, in doing so, Hal immediately looks around him and sees that Sinestro is worshipped on this planet. And what doesn't click to Sinestro is how bad he actually is. He doesn't have any sort of idea that this isn't normal. And that's the great tragedy of the character. Hal pleads with him to try and see what his planet has become. There's a revolution rising up against him to take him down. But Sinestro doesn't listen, and he speeds off to Mongul's home planet with Hal in pursuit. Cut to Mongul's planet, where Guy and John have called in backup finally, in the form of Boudica, Tomar-Re, and Ariza. I think with these lanterns you get a great sense of individuality to them, and they're defending the people from the Manhunters. Sinestro arrives and immediately charges to Mongul in the throne room. He engages in a fight when Hal arrives, and they double team Mongul to take him down. That sounds a bit not safe for work. Ending in Sinestro grabbing Mongul by the throat, defeated. Which is when Mongul reveals to Sinestro that he knows what he's been doing on Korrigar, his home planet. He knows the Guardians of the Universe are going to kick him out of the Green Lanterns for it. That's when Sinestro turns to Hal for some reassurance, but Hal can't reassure him because he's seen it himself. Sinestro, filled with rage, raises his ring to kill Mongul, but Hal blasts the ring off of his hand. Instead, he grabs a shard of glass from the floor and stabs Mongul. Mongul dies, laughing and coughing, blood spilling out of his mouth. Maybe that, no, hold on, not that. That's way too dark. Sinestro, now with no Green Lantern ring, is quickly overpowered by Hal. All the Manhunters stop working and drop to the ground, as the other Green Lanterns come to the throne room and help restrain Sinestro and take him back to Oa. He's put on trial. Kat Matui, the leader of the resistance, is brought in by John and gives a testimony on all the terrible things he's done to that planet. The Guardians decide that they've heard enough and sentence him, not before Sinestro cries out and calls them hypocrites for covering up the massacre of Sector 666 while sentencing him to the antimatter universe for something like this. They just completely deflect it and send him anyway. But that's when John calls them out himself for covering it up. And they explain to John that it was a rogue Guardian who became obsessed with a prophecy regarding the light spectrum, and who was completely taken over by his obsession with death. The Green Lanterns don't accept this as okay, but it's all they can really do at this point. The entire sector is gone. You can't bring that back. Only survivors are Atrocitus and his terrorist squad. Then you have the Lanterns leave the room. The music swells, and then all of a sudden Guy just switches, and he's just like, wait. He runs back in, he's like,
what do you mean, what do you mean a light spectrum?
and then make one of the Guardians smile and cut. That's a bad ending. But I stand by everything else in that movie. For the post-credits scene, I would have Sinestro's ring be sent out to his sector to find a replacement, and have it land on Kat Matui, the leader of the resistance who featured in his trial scene earlier. The second post-credits scene would be Atrocitus imprisoned on Ismal. You see his eyes, you see him in his cell, you see his rage just growing, and his eyes glow red, and red energy just pours out of him, blows the door off his prison cell. He smiles. This ties into the ending with Guy, where you start to see the other light spectrum showing up. Now you have Rage also, the Red Lanterns. So that's all I have so far. In terms of casting, which is what everyone is pretty much here for Hal Jordan, I want to go with Henry Golding. This guy's so handsome. You probably know him from Crazy Rich Asians. He looks like Hal Jordan to me. He's a test pilot. He looks, if you saw this guy and someone was like, oh, he flies planes for a living, you'd be like,
Fuck, I believe it.
I want them to make Hal a little bit less bland than he's usually written in the Green Lantern books. In the Justice League books, he's written as the kind of comic relief, and I think he could really shine here. Not so much as the comic relief, just as a bit of a, kind of hotshot pilot. For Sinestro, I want to go with Luke Evans. I had so many different ideas for this casting, but I think Luke sticks out the most. And I've seen him fan casted as Sinestro before, but I think he sticks out the most because if he played Sinestro, he would have this kind of Ted Bundy essence to his character. That would be a great dichotomy for Sinestro, where you have this handsome kind of olderish guy on the outside, but in terms of the person he is on the inside, he's not that great. And the great tragedy of his character is that he doesn't even realize it. I think Luke Evans definitely has the look, and he could play that really well. For Jon Stewart, I'm going to go with Trevante Rhodes. He's kind of an easy casting because Trevante just kind of screams Jon Stewart to me. I want Jon to be the kind of authority out of our four main lanterns in this movie. Also, make him an architect again. I don't know why that was retconned. An architect being a Green Lantern is such a good idea. It makes sense. For Guy Gardner, I'm going to go with Robert Kavinsky. If you haven't seen Pacific Rim, first of all, go watch it. Second of all, you know exactly why I chose this guy. He can play this cocky asshole that you hate, but you immediately kind of, you're like...
Oh, this guy's kind of hot. He's kind of charming. Like, I get it.
Robert Kavinsky could add so much charm to the character that isn't really seen in the comic book. For Mongol, I'm going to go with Eric Roberts. Eric Roberts already played this character in Justice League Unlimited, and he was just fucking amazing. And I can't get that voice out of my head.
Mongol. You recognize me. I'm flattered. I suppose Superman told you all about our previous encounter.
You mean how he humiliated you?
A jaundiced account.
I tried casting an Eric Roberts type for this role, but it just... There was no one else who could do it. His voice is so menacing, but it's not deep. It's just normal, and there's almost horror in that coming out of Mongol's mouth. For Atrocitus, I'm going with Ving Rhames. Ving Rhames, he can play great emotion really well, and his voice is just... You can really kind of sense emotion behind his voice when he speaks. I think he'd just be so fucking fantastic. I know Atrocitus is the Rage Lantern, really, but I don't want to portray that 100% of the time. He'd bring a lot of nuance to the character of Atrocitus, who's just kind of usually played as a 90s character, if that makes sense. For Kat Matui, I'm going to go with Dasha Polanco from Orange is the New Black. Because she's the leader of a rebellion, you should want to listen to what she has to say, and with her, she's such a great actor, I can immediately picture her in that role. I immediately want to listen to what she has to say. And if she's leading a rebellion, fuck, I'm all in. For Tomar Ray, I'm going to go with Zachary Quinto. His voice is so inquisitive, and you get such intelligence behind it. I think it would be great. Plus, it's such a tiny role, you could just put him in another movie later on as someone else. For Boudica, I'm going to go with Mandy Moore. Mandy Moore is just perfect for this role. Physically, visually, she would just be so interesting in this role. And I think with Boudica, you don't really see that many tall warrior women in these superhero movies. I think she'd absolutely kill as Boudica, who first and foremost is a warrior Green Lantern. I think she'd have a very visually interesting fight style as well. For Ariza, I'm going to go with Sophie Cookson. She's such a great action star who hasn't really done any action since Kingsman, or maybe I'm just ignorant. But the way they killed her off in Kingsman 2, which was such a disservice to that character, I think she'd absolutely kill as the Green Lantern. Is there anyone else? The Guardians. Is it weird I want Peter Weller for all of them? That's a wrap on that video. I hope you guys like what I have to say. If you don't tell me. Leave comments, let me know what you guys think. Subscribe if you want to see more of this. I'm doing like comment, subscribe, aren't I? Okay, well, let me know what you guys think about this. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Go listen to my podcast or follow me on Instagram. The links are down below. Alright, have a great week, guys. Thank you for watching. God bless. I need a new thing to say. I love you.